There's just so much.
You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Monday, the 5th of August. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Vernem, filling in for Jessie today. She's a bit sick.
She is a bit sick. Bless her, sending healing vibes your way, my friend. On today's show, our very non-expert Olympic roundup, including an apparent gender panic, exes winning gold together, and a river of poo.
I watch so much Olympics on the weekend.
Oh, good.
It's like my background. It's very soothing.
Are you a sporty girl now?
No.
Oh.
But I've got a lot of opinions.
Don't we all? Also, the Royal Sussexes of Montecito have given their first joint interview since that Oprah show, and it's not about jam. And movie star maths. What George Clooney, Glen Powell and Ryan Gosling have in common that Tom Cruise, Bradley Cooper and Ben Affleck definitely do not. But first, Vernem.
In case you missed it, the real star of the Olympics is a chocolate muffin.
Do you know the Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man!
The Olympic Village cafeteria has gone viral on TikTok. Athletes are rating and reviewing all the food that's been served to them. One athlete in particular, named Henrik Christensen, who's a Norwegian distance swimmer, has taken the ranking of the foods very seriously. So he gave the village an 11 out of 10 for their chocolate muffin and has now made over 10 TikToks dedicated to the said muffin.
Oh, I love him. I'm so fascinated by the Olympic dining room. I mean, I imagine there's lots of them because there's, 10,000 athletes or more in the village. But I also heard that there's a shortage of protein.
Yeah.
Because the French wanted to contribute a little less to global warming by using more plant-based proteins. And there are some people who aren't happy because there's not enough steak.
No, and they've been going in on all the pastas, a lot of it's served cold.
Well, you got a carb load if you're trying to win gold.
But not everyone likes our friend Henrik, who's now called the Muffin Man. Other athletes have been making TikToks going, I'm trying to get a chocolate muffin, but I think that one Norwegian swimmer has taken them all.
So he's stashing them.
He's hoarding them. He's been commenting on all of their TikToks as well, going, you'll never find them.
Do you know what? So I've been in trouble a lot of times at buffets because I'm often not that hungry in the morning, but when you're somewhere and there's a great buffet, I like to just grab a few things for later.
Shove them in your pockets.
It always mortifies my family that I do this. And one time I was at a restaurant and we were having breakfast at this hotel and the waiter came over and said, you can't take the food. And I went, I didn't. And he said, we saw you.
He was like, madam, would you empty your bag, please? You might have heard that a gender war has broken out at the Paris Olympics. You might have seen a picture from a boxing final accompanied by a message from perhaps J.K. Rowling, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, claiming that a man just broke a woman's nose in the Olympic boxing ring in a natural conclusion of a radical trans agenda. So let's unpack this a little bit. On Thursday, Paris time, Algerian boxer Imane Khalif fought Italian boxer Angela Carini in a boxing heat, right? Obviously, I am not a boxing expert, but they're in weight divisions. They're in the 66 kilo weight division, and they had a boxing match. At 45 seconds, Carini pulled out of the fight after a heavy blow to the face. She said at the time that she had never felt a punch like it, and that's when a storm erupted. Because last year, in an unexplained move, Khalif was one of two boxers suspended from the World Boxing Championships by the International Boxing Association, who cited that she and another athlete who's also at the Olympics, a Taiwanese boxer called Lin Yuting, had failed the organization's gender eligibility test. Now, at the time, the IBA, so that's the Boxing Association, would not disclose what kind of testing the women had failed. And it's worth noting that the organisation itself is under a serious cloud of corruption allegations.
Well, they've been deregistered and disqualified as a governing body because of corruption, bribery, fraud, a whole bunch of things. And it's worth noting that this mysterious gender test that was conducted on the two boxers happened after Imane, the Algerian boxer, beat a Russian boxer. And the IBA, the International Boxing Association, is run by
its president
Russia.
Its president is a Russian man who is a close ally of Putin's. So yes, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the IBA, and as you say, the Olympic Committee does not recognise them, nor do lots of other, like the American Boxing Committee. Lots of places don't. Just a bit of a sidebar to explain how this works, right? The International Olympic Committee no longer runs any gender testing, so they don't do gender testing. Individual sports all have their own federations, and they all have their own different rules for gender eligibility. And you probably would understand why this has been under a spotlight a lot in recent years. There have been some high-profile controversies. The swimmers who are competing at the Olympics, for example, have all passed and fallen in line with the gender eligibility rules of the swimming authority.
And then do the swimming authority send that to the IOC?
Yeah, so the only thing the IOC will check is that the athletes, their passports match the gender that they're competing in.
Got it.
But you pass the tests by doing it within your own sport. And those tests themselves vary depending on what your sport is. So it might involve a testosterone test. It might involve a raft of other medical tests like a physical exam, an ultrasound, a chromosome test. But the test that these boxers are alleged to have failed has not been, there are no details of it, right, from this now shady organisation. So back to Imani Khalif. The story was immediately picked up, and you would have seen the images everywhere, as a culture war issue.
And I think, I just want to say what I think a lot of people probably saw over the weekend, reading a headline, flicking through something on social media. It seemed like this was a transgender issue and that it was the two female boxers were trans women. That is actually not the case.
So, J.D. Vance tweeted, "This is where Kamala Harris's ideas about gender lead to a grown man pummeling a woman in a boxing match. This is disgusting and all our leaders should condemn it." The problem with this is, well, there are many problems with this, but they're missing something very important. There is no evidence at all that Khalif is not exactly who she says she is. A woman who has always boxed as a woman, has had a long, long career in women's boxing, and has identified as a woman since birth.
She's lost to women, she's beat women, just like every other athlete.
The IOC president, Thomas Bach, had to make a statement, and this is what he said.
Let's be very clear here. We are talking about women's boxing. And we have two boxers who are born as women, who have been raised as a woman, who have a passport as a woman, and who have competed for many years as women. And this is the clear definition of a woman. There was never any doubt about them being a woman. What we see now is that some want to own the definition of who is a woman.
After that match, she went on to win her next match against a Hungarian boxer. That was a long, drawn-out match. She won it on points. She broke down afterwards because the attention around her has become absolutely hysterical. There are lots of reporters talking about the hordes of press who are at these things now. You know, obviously she is just being absolutely pummeled with questions and no doubt online abuse. She broke down in tears after that win, and she said, "This is a matter of dignity and honour for every woman or female. For years I've been boxing in international federation competitions. I want to tell the entire world that I am a female and I will remain a female." Mia, is this just a big, ugly distraction?
It is, and it's devastating. My heart goes out to Imani and to the other female boxer, the Italian woman that Imani beat, who withdrew from the match and screamed, "It's not fair, it's not fair." She then clarified, "I was talking about my career ending this way." She was very careful. She did not say anything about that Imani shouldn't have competed.
Because she's also copping a lot of abuse.
Yeah. I feel so sorry for these athletes, and I think that it is such a good example of how people will latch onto something and weaponize it to advance a cause that they might believe in. The messages in my group chats were all like, "Can someone explain to me what this is? Because I thought it was a transgender thing, but now I think maybe it's not, but everybody's being a little bit opaque about what's going on." I think at the heart of it, and if you've watched any Olympics or any sport or been to the beach, women look a lot of different ways. And if we are now going to be looking at women and making judgments based on how they look and whether they conform to certain stereotypical ideals about what a woman should look like, or how they perform, and if they are particularly strong or particularly good at their sport, which I thought was the point of the Olympics, then I think this is just the most shocking, regressive thing to happen to us. And I think it's so important to say this is not what people like J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk and J.D. Vance are trying to make you think it is. It's not. And these poor women.
I think it goes beyond the athletes as well. I think it's become a full culture thing. Like, I have PCOS, which means that my testosterone levels are quite high.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome?
Yes.
I had that too. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've got no ovaries anymore, but I had that too. And it can, what are some of the symptoms of
Well,
that?
before I was diagnosed around 15, but I had really severe effects from, I guess, the ages of 9 up until, and then I went on the pill and it helped a bit.
Can have things like facial hair.
A lot of like dark, thick facial hair, body hair.
Weight gain.
My voice was deeper. I had like not as, I guess, stereotypical woman's body. And at that age, I remember like the boys in my class, because I had more hair than them and I had a deeper voice, they would ask me, "Are you a man?" And I was probably like 9, 10. And then I grew up and it felt like every woman understood. Like, every woman I talked to has been like, "Oh yeah, I get facial hair as well. Yeah, like it feels like PCOS is now being talked about more." And what happened in the boxing ring just shows that it isn't.
It also shows the complexity of, as I said before, the gender eligibility tests are very complicated because it is not as simple as testosterone levels or all kinds of different things. So, yeah, as Mia said, if you've just glanced this story or you've seen some particularly emotive imagery being shared around, because some of the picture selection has been shocking. And the memes, just always, like we talked about rage baiting last week, and this is a bit of an example of rage baiting, right? It's like, take a breath, see what's really going on. What else is happening in the Olympics?
Well, I thought it would be good to check in on the state of the Seine River and all the poo that's been running through it.
Didn't they fix it?
They spent $1.5 billion trying to fix it, and the Paris mayor even took a dip herself to say, "Nothing to see here. The water is safe."
Oh, darling, she would have had her mouth closed so tight.
Like, don't make me do it, please.
It's like in Jaws when they were like, "You go for a swim in there. You go for a swim. Go on, I'll show everybody that the beach is safe."
Outlouders might remember that there was a poo protest by Parisians who were not happy about the Seine having all that money spent on it, or perhaps they were unhappy about the Olympics coming, unclear. But there was a organised Go Poo in the Seine campaign where you got a time where you would have to go anyway. So they claimed that it was all okay, but it was checked recently and it still has pretty dangerously high levels of E. coli bacteria, which is essentially poo. Now, the triathlon happened over the last few days, and it didn't go well for a lot of the athletes who had to swim in the Seine.
They had to push it back originally.
They
didn't
did, because there was a lot of rain, as we saw in the opening ceremony, and a lot of stormwater came into the Seine, and we know what stormwater's full of. So, Canadian athlete, you might have seen this, it's gone viral. His name's Tyler Mislachuk, and he came in 9th place in the men's triathlon earlier this week. He crossed the finish line and immediately started vomiting. He said that he vomited 10 times.
I've actually seen videos of this.
There are pictures of
Looks like me on a night out.
Like a Renaissance painting, or the car park at the Melbourne Cup. It's just athletes vomiting, lying on the ground. People weren't great in terms of how they felt afterwards, but the men's triathlon was actually postponed. But something that I just will never be able to get out of my mind, one of the male triathletes, American Seth Ryder, he said he had a special plan, this is before it happened, to combat all the E. coli. He said that he was going to try and increase his body's resistance to it. He said, "We know there's going to be some E. coli exposure, so I just tried to increase my E. coli threshold by exposing myself to a bit of E. coli in my day-to-day life." And he said it's backed by science, just little things throughout your day, like not washing your hands after you go to the bathroom.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, that's Olympic commitment, eating your own poo to sort of acclimatise your body to eating other people's. Now, in case you're wondering, the women triathletes did not have a better time. In fact, Belgian triathlete Jolienne Vermeulen made it sound like she'd lived through a horror film. She said, "While swimming under the bridge, I felt and saw things that we shouldn't think about too much."
Oh, no.
She said, I drank a lot of river water, so we'll know tomorrow if I'm sick or not. It did not taste like Sprite.
Oh, yuck. I also, with the guy who didn't wash his hands, I'm like, was it worth it? Like, I don't think he placed.
He came 29th.
Oh, no. That's the worst. I really feel bad for these athletes, especially because they had no choice. They just had to do it, like hold their breath. Well, you have to hold your breath anyway.
Well, there's a long distance swim happening, I think, in the next few days, which is going to be really bad.
Abort.
I think they should abort. I have a new Roman Empire. Czech tennis players Katerina Siniakova and Thomas Maharch have won gold in the mixed doubles tennis tournament. When they won, they embraced each other and kissed. Now, this is a big deal.
Like on the lips kiss.
They kissed on the lips because they used to date. They were in a relationship for 4 years and then they broke up just before the Olympics.
Oh.
And it caused like this whole controversy.
Why did they break up?
Because they wanted to focus on getting gold, even though they're playing together.
I would have thought that breaking up would have been a distraction because
Really
you've got to, like 4 years probably they were living together, like you got to move, you got to find something. That's disruptive.
Do you think it's like, you know how there's a sex ban that some footballers have to have and stuff before they play to like really build up that tension?
I swear to God, these people are so committed. We've got one guy eating his own poo. You've got another couple who are breaking up just so that they can focus. It seems like it turned out better for them than
I think it worked out.
guy.
I think
Do
also
we know if they're like, because everybody is obsessed now with whether or not they're getting back together because they won gold?
I think they're together. They haven't confirmed, but they cheekily said, we love making you guys confused.
Oh.
But they said it's private between us.
They know how to play the game.
Yeah, but I think this is the reason why you never date your colleagues. Because this is what happens. They could be solely responsible for you getting a gold medal or not.
Oh my God. Years ago, Brent was training this like walking team who were doing this really, like, you know, one of those charity walks that goes through the night, 24-hour walk.
Yeah.
And there was a couple in it and they broke up a week before the walk.
And they had to walk together.
And they had to walk together for 24 hours and they literally wouldn't talk to each other. So one of them would be said to Brent, Brent, can you tell Sally that she's not walking fast enough? Well, Brent, could you tell Bobby that he's being too greedy with that water and he needs to share it around? Like, that's what this would be
so
like.
good.
Imagine the coach of the doubles team and she's like, can you tell him that he really needs to pull his pants out of his bum? It's very unflattering.
I've got a theory about working together as a couple who has worked together with, I've worked together with my husband for the last, 15 or more years. Sometimes I wonder if every relationship has got, it's like how long you can go on your tyre, right, before the tyre wears out. How long your relationship can go. And when you work together, I wonder if you just wear it out faster, that you get to the end of that period of time faster.
Like dog years.
Like you burn through it faster.
I think it works if you have a hard like split. What I'm thinking happened with these two was that they said it was mutual, but obviously there's no such thing as a mutual breakup. I think they were in a situationship just because they kissed at the end. So I think there's like been some flirting. So I don't think they fully broke up when they said they broke up. I think they were like, let's just separate for a bit. Let's see what happens when we win.
I've certainly been in times where I've just gone, oh, look, the relationship's not great, but it just would be too complicated to break up because we also work together. And then you move past it and then you're like, oh, I'm glad we didn't break up. I love you
I'm
again.
surprised they won because if I was her, I'd just be going, oh, I wonder if I'm standing okay. Is he looking at me? Because he'll probably be back there, right? Looking and she'll be in the front.
They kind of had a
I feel like you haven't been in a really long-term relationship, Em.
They're not thinking about
They're
that.
in a situationship and I think they're back together.
But we've all heard about the Olympic Village beds and how they're no good for having sex.
No, they're all
so
cardboard.
I hope they celebrated their gold with a hotel room.
Oh, they would have been on the floor.
Let's talk about royals, please. Let's talk about Harry and Meghan. Let's talk about all the good things and the good things that make them. Let's talk about royals. Let's talk about royals. Let's talk about royals. Let's talk about royals.
In royal news, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have still not released any jam. I should say the Duchess because I don't think the Duke's involved in the jam.
I check every day.
Yeah. And that's the end of the segment.
Or the dog biscuits. I'm keen on the dog biscuits.
Yeah. Harry and Meghan have actually sat down for their first TV interview together in 3 years since they chatted to Oprah. And we all remember where we were that day. That was a great day at work.
Great
It
day.
really was. A preview from the Duke and Duchess, I'm just going to call them Harry and Meghan, A preview of their conversation from CBS Sunday Morning, a program with Jane Pauley, who's like, she's like a Lisa Wilkinson, a very well-respected commentator, an interviewer, journalist. This time, they're not discussing the royal family. They're discussing the online threats facing children, and they've launched a new campaign all about children and mental health and the impact of social media. There have been similar campaigns in Australia. There's been the 36 months campaign, which we talked about here, which is trying to increase the amount of time before which children are legally allowed to be on social media by 3 years. And they've put together this incredibly moving video that they're not in, that is interviews with a number of couples who have lost children to suicide after things that have happened to them on social media, bullying and harassment. The campaign's called No Child Lost to Social Media. And in this interview, Meghan revealed her own struggles with mental health and suicidal ideation, which she says really made her want to do something for kids.
When you've been through any level of pain or trauma, I believe part of our healing journey, certainly part of mine, is being able to be really open about it. I haven't really scraped the surface on my experience, but I do think that I would never want someone else to feel that way. And I would never want someone else to be making those sort of plans. And I would never want someone else to not be believed. If me voicing what I have overcome will save someone or asks or encourage someone in their life to really genuinely check in on them and not assume that the appearance is good so everything's okay, then that's worth it. I'll take a hit for that. Anyone watching this or anyone who's able to make change, to look at it through the lens of, what if it was my daughter?
Now, as captain of the eye rollers usually when it comes to Harry and Meghan stories, I'm not going to go down the path of the predictable response, which is they should shut up. I don't want to be lectured by them, although I don't like being lectured by them. I think this is a really great thing to do for them. I think that the criticism has been, the psychobabble, you could hear a little bit of it there. And I should disclose, at the time we're recording this, the full interview hasn't been released, so we haven't actually watched the whole thing, but we've seen quite a few excerpts of it and read some things about it. So I think the backlash is predictable, but surely it's a good thing, right? If they're using their voice, or is it a bad thing?
Oh, it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. The thing that's really interesting about, it's just speaking of Roman empires, my obsession with the strategy, the Sussex strategy, is never ending. Because,
what do you think it is?
Because it's multi-pronged, right? So this is part of the Parents Network. They've set up this organisation. It's part of their Archwell Foundation, which is their sort of overarching charitable arm. So in their post-royal life, they have different sort of quadrants of business, I guess, right?
They have a portfolio career.
They do. They have a portfolio career, exactly that. So they've got their Netflix deal, which was obviously that documentary that made $1 bajillion for Netflix because it was so massive. And Meghan has been filming a lifestyle series, which, oh my God, I just cannot wait. That will be a very happy day for me when that drops. And very well-placed sources say that's close and that it's real. We don't know exactly what form it takes
Is
yet.
it a cooking show?
I don't think it's exactly a cooking show, but everyone's just saying a lifestyle story. And I think that probably this is where my jam hole will be filled, because surely the jam has to come with it. So anyway, we've got TV production. We've got Harry's book, which remains one of the best-selling books of all time and is just like a money machine, just churning the dollars into that house. They've got the jam, which we don't know where that is.
Why do they keep going on these faux royal tours? They've just said they're about to go to Colombia.
Another thing. And then
Explain
they've got
that.
Archwell, right, which is their charitable arm. And this is part of that, the Parents Network. And also as part of that are these sort of outreach tours they're doing. Earlier this year, they went on a trip to Nigeria, which was hailed a big success, actually. And one of the things
From whose point of view? Like, what was the point of these trips?
So the point of these trips is, and this all folds in together with what they're talking about now. Mental health is their thing, right? So they were there in Nigeria at the invitation of one of their military defense officials because of Harry's connection to the Invictus Games, which is another quadrant, right? So they've got the Invictus Games, and so he was invited there. And so while they're there,
we're up
they're
to
like,
5 quadrants.
yeah. I know that's not how quadrants work, is it? Anyway, everyone who listens to this know maths not my thing. It's a very complicated pie chart we have going on now. But anyway.
We need a bigger pie chart.
In Nigeria, they were also going to lots of youth mental health charities, and that's what they're going to be doing in Colombia. So they've been invited to Colombia by the vice president, and they are going to go for 3 or 4 days, and they are going to visit lots of youth mental health services. The idea is obviously to raise awareness, raise funds for different charities, and to, walk their walk. If you go to the Archwell Foundation page, the big letters, it says, show up, do good. Now, there are parts of the world where they're more welcome to show up and do good than others, right? They can't go to England, for example, because A, they are very on the nose there with the general public, but also Harry has stated on the record quite recently he will not take Meghan to England because he worries about her safety. They don't get proper police protection there. I mean, Colombia is not exactly a safe country, guys. Somebody might need to tell them that. I'm sure they know. But it's really interesting because obviously Nigeria was deemed a success, so they're going to continue this as part of their strategy. And it is, as you've said, Mia, it's interesting because no one else does that, right? Sometimes a celebrity will go and visit a developing nation as part of their ambassadorship with a charity.
Angelina Jolie.
So that's an equivalent, right?
With UNHCR, yeah.
And celebrity goes, I work with UNHCR, so I'm going to go and visit a refugee camp in X, and they'll go and do that. But these sort of independent royal, there's no other way of looking at them than that they're a mini royal tour. And all the sources say that the king is very irritated by it, as are William and Kate, particularly because they can't go anywhere at the minute for all their well-documented health reasons, although, as we know,
yeah,
King
so
Charles
it doesn't, dumb question, is Colombia a Commonwealth country?
No, it's not.
Right.
I will double check that. But
and it doesn't mean that royals don't also do tours of non-Commonwealth countries. They'll often tour the United States, for example.
Yeah, and they'll have to kind of pick and choose their destinations carefully. But it's really interesting because this Parents Network, which is without question a very good and very of-the-moment campaign, because there's a lot of talk at the minute about age-gating social media, about putting a lot of pressure on big tech companies to make their platforms safer. We'd all remember the hearings where Mark Zuckerberg was faced by the grieving parents of children lost to social media bullying, and that's what this is. So they are making online bullying in particular a big part of their charitable arm. Do you like it, Em?
I don't like it only because I find what they're doing just very confusing. I'm not as across the royals as
Too many
you.
quadrants, that's
Too
why.
many quadrants because I'm like, okay, they want me to buy jam, they want me to go to the lifestyle brand, they want me to read a book, they want me to listen to a podcast, and now they want me to look at like mental health for kids. And I feel like the mental health of kids is way too important for me to also be looking at all of this other stuff. And it's like they're minimizing it by being so distracting with everything else.
But I totally get what you're saying. Hasn't that always been the case with people choosing to use their celebrity to shine a light on charitable causes or causes that they believe in? For example, Megan Thee Stallion performing at a rally for Kamala Harris last week. It's like, is she a singer or is she about politics? Or Angelina Jolie going to these tours, and Salma Hayek and lots of other celebrities have done them.
I agree. A lot of celebrities do this, but I think it's the whole like having to announce everything. Like they announce every little thing they do and then I don't hear from it ever again. And I'm worried that this is what's going to happen with the Parents Network that I went into. Firstly, navigating their website is a whole thing. They used to be like Sussex Royal, but now that website's closed, so it takes you to sussex.com. And then they have projects like film projects, and you said there was a video about Parents Network, so I went into their production side. That's a blank page, so I had to come back out of it, go into I went through 9 pages before I actually found out what we were talking about today.
It's interesting too because we talked a while ago about the female billionaires who are putting their money in really good causes. And one of the really effective ways they do that is they find out who's the best in that space, who's doing the best work in that space, and then they give them money. So they're not necessarily, I'm setting up a foundation. Now, Harry and Meg's are very much going the other way. This isn't to criticize them, but it's interesting to me that you'd start a parents network that then when I went to understand what they do, again, that's confusing because it's like they have like support call meetings for parents who are struggling with their children with social media. They've got lobbying groups to try and but it's all very bitsy again, and it feels like the messaging is confusing. However, I want to press on the fact that you are opening your arms to this, Mia, which is great, because one of the criticisms of Meghan, and I have to say that anytime I open X, formerly known as Twitter, which I do only really for professional purposes, there is not a day that I won't open that when some version of I hate Meghan Markle or Meghan Markle is a complete monster isn't trending. She cops an enormous amount of online hate for reasons that we've talked about many times. But usually there is a certain portion of the internet that eye rolls so hard, as you mentioned, about her claiming sort of what you could frame as victim status. But you really understand what she's talking about when she talks about the effect that all that online bullying had on her, right?
Yeah, I do, because I think that anyone who has been attacked online or cancelled or been at the receiving end of a huge amount of online hate for whatever reason, they all pretty much say the same thing. They all say, I had suicidal ideation because I did not know what else to do and I did not know how to make it stop. So I think it's good that she's saying that, and it's something that we've heard and that we need to continue to hear, because when people are just like, oh, she's famous, she's rich, she doesn't care, she's basically saying, no, I did care and it did affect me. What's a little tricky is threading that needle back to someone going, and I think her logic is, I want people to know that if it could happen to me with all of my privilege and power, what hope is there for kids? Because their kids are very little, obviously. They're not experienced as parents, so they can't come out and talk about this from the point of view of parents, except hypothetically in the future, because they've never experienced it yet. I don't know if you'd look at that and go, like, I don't know what I'm meant to do. I mean, as far as awareness, yes. But I think that back to your point, Hol, about a lot of philanthropists, mostly women, Mackenzie Bezos, Melinda Gates and Lauren Powell Jobs, a lot of those women give money to these big charities and they're amazing rather than saying they're going to do it themselves. But Harry and Meghan would argue that they don't have money to give. They're not billionaires. And it's true, not everybody does have money to give. Some people volunteer their time, some people volunteer their fame, and that's what they're essentially doing. They're like, look, the media is going to be interested in whatever we have to say, so we may as well use that attention to say something positive. And I agree with you. We are very uncomfortable with this idea of mixed messages, even though that is what everybody's doing now. Like Jennifer Aniston's got her hair products and she's also on TV and she's also speaking out about JD Vance and childless cat ladies. I feel like, and almost if someone stays in just one lane, Taylor Swift is often criticised for not using her platform to speak out about all of these social issues. But I think it speaks to Harry and Meghan and their brand and the sort of the impatience and cynicism that everything's greeted with. I don't know what the way out of that would be.
I'm just worried about what happens because we say they don't have money and they're relying on donations for this parent network, which is meant to be, I guess, like a forum for parents to connect and talk to each other.
The world doesn't need another one. Like, everyone doesn't need to start their own foundation. To me, that speaks of more ego, because there are people who are in the grassroots organisations who've been doing this, who are set up to do it, who are qualified to do it.
Yeah.
You don't need to replicate that.
And what happens when the donations run out and all these parents are in this group?
It is interesting. As I say, I obsess about their strategy, but watching the video part of this, not as you, it's very high production values, like it's very good, right? So I can see that they're sitting there, everything's taking a long time of theirs to roll out, probably because they're doing it well, right? They're doing it really well and in a really considered way. But it is just like, I don't know, I agree, it's kind of scattergun. But I also think that Mia's right in that we all want to roll our eyes at them because we're like, well, what are they? We don't understand what they are anymore. Are you royal? Are you famous?
Yeah.
Are you business people? Are you charitable? Like, what are you? And the thing is, as you've pointed out, Mia, is these days, I don't know that you have to pick a lane.
I also think that they are doing something that no one's done before, because they're royal, but they're living in LA and they're making money and they're not under the umbrella of the royal family. There's a reason that we're all confused. It's because they are forging a new path, which is why they wanted to leave in the first place. Do you want daily Out Loud access? Why wouldn't you? We drop episodes every Tuesday and Thursday exclusively for Mamamia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get us in your ears 5 days a week. And a huge thank you if you're already a subscriber.
Writer Anne Helen Peterson, who has a newsletter called Culture Study, wrote about a unified theory of Glen Powell. So
I'm so jealous. I wanted to write this after I saw Twisters. I should have done it.
I should have done it as well. So Glen Powell's like a big movie star right now. He was in Twisters recently. He's been in Top Gun. He's been in The Idea of You with Sydney Sweeney.
He's suddenly caught the public's imagination in a big way.
In it, she talked about how she never really got him. She found him kind of bland and boring because she never watched anything with him in. And then she started watching movies with him in it and starring in it, and she immediately became obsessed, like to the point where she would watch TikToks of him, interviews with him. So she came up with these ideas on why she thinks she went from him being like bland and like nothing to her to becoming obsessed with him. And one of the theories was because he likes women. So she says it's different than knowing you can get women or wanting to control women or even loving women. He likes them. He appreciates them. He enjoys their company. So it's about the idea of how women like celebrity men who also like women. And then she went into all the other celebrity men who like or not like women.
That's such an interesting lens on it because, yeah, it's not about men who love women in a I want to f*** all the women way. Or even just like women are so sexy. It's men who are comfortable around women who like women. That's so interesting.
Her evidence for this seems to be it's his persona, right? Both on and off screen. So if you're also like who the hell's Glen Powell, he played the sort of baddie in Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
And he is in Someone Like You and all those things. And he is like, he's handsome, but he's not like you would fall down dead handsome.
No.
But the thing is as soon as you see him on screen and in these roles that she's talking about, his riz is so enormous.
Really? What's his vibe?
His vibe is very, very hot.
Compare him to another celebrity that I might know.
So the most
Like Paul Mescal?
No, he's not got a
too
vibe.
young.
Paul Mescal's too tortured. He's not tortured at all.
But he loves women.
Travis
I don't like
Kelce.
that.
No, but his vibe is the thing I thought when I saw Twisters, and it might have been about the cowboy hat, but do you remember the first time you saw Thelma and Louise and you saw Brad Pitt? The first time, right? It was like this energy on the screen.
I think you're talking about your sexual awakening.
I don't even know what you're talking
For Gen
about.
X
But
women.
it's not, it's like, it's the energy of it. Like, yeah, sure, he's beautiful, but you could be a model and you're not, like, you look nice, but you don't have the vibe. It's just this riz, this energy, this playful, friendly, hot.
So tell me, what are some other celebrities that like women in this same way?
So I'm going to read out the excerpt that she wrote in her newsletter. Tom Cruise doesn't like women. Neither does Miles Teller. Channing Tatum likes women, so does Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt used to like women but doesn't anymore. Leonardo DiCaprio only likes them occasionally. Bradley Cooper doesn't. George Clooney does. Matt Damon doesn't. Ben Affleck only does in that one scene in the J-Lo documentary. Marlon Brando didn't. Montgomery Clift did. Paul Newman didn't on screen but did IRL. Cary Grant did. John Wayne definitely didn't. Will Smith pretends he doesn't, but I'm not convinced. Mark Wahlberg absolutely does not, but Daniel Day-Lewis does. So does Paul Mescal.
Yes.
So does Paul Mescal likes women. Okay, I'm going to add a few politicians. Obama
Likes women.
likes women.
Very much.
Albo likes women.
Definitely.
Scott Morrison doesn't like women.
No like
Boris
women.
Johnson likes women, I would say. Donald Trump obviously
baby.
doesn't like women.
No.
Joe
Maybe.
Biden, just too old. I don't know. Different generation.
One of the pieces of evidence here, and you will...
JD Vance hates women.
He hates
women.
them. My goodness, he hates them. One of the pieces of evidence here is how they treat their co-stars, right? So you know how big movie, then you go on the tour. And it's like you've got to hang out with, in Twister's case, Daisy Edgar-Jones, who's his co-star, who was in Normal People and who's in, all that stuff. Often what will happen is everyone will think they're dating, which is what happened with him and Sydney Sweeney. But they weren't, or at least it doesn't seem so.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of affection and piss-taking and like friendly banter between them. He looks at them like he likes them. He's not creepy.
It's not sleazy.
And that's the thing. And I
yeah.
think that women have a very good radar for this because in real life we do, right? You know how when men these days will often say, oh, you can't even talk to a woman in a bar anymore, or you can't flirt with a woman at work or whatever. It's all very confusing. And I think that women fundamentally understand that it's not confusing because we know when someone is talking to us in a playful, respectful, flirty way and when someone is being a creep. It's hard to articulate, but we know it, and we see it when we see the Glen Powells or the Channing Tatums sort of being playful and friendly and respectful of the women around them rather than pervy, creepy, diminishing.
Okay, I want to throw out some more names.
Okay.
Robert Downey Jr.
Oh.
I don't think he likes women.
He likes his wife, but I don't think he's allowed to like any other women because that's a sobriety issue.
Ryan Gosling.
Definitely likes women.
Yeah.
And the way you can tell that is that obviously he's in a long-term relationship and he's very respectful of her, but he is really friendly and playful with all his co-stars. Emma Stone, oh my God.
I don't even think it's a creepy thing. It's more like an attention thing. Like you can tell, like say we were all at dinner together and our waiter was George Clooney. He would come and give each of us individual time asking for our order, making eye contact.
He would.
If it was Bradley Cooper, he'd come, look at one of us, be like, she's a hot one in the group, and like turn his back to the rest of us and be like,
He'd
what do
be
you
chatting
want?
you
Look
up
at-
him because you're young
Maybe.
and
I don't want to
hot.
say it, but
Hugh Jackman.
Likes
women.
Harry Styles.
Likes women.
Likes women if they give him attention.
Oh, don't say anything bad about
Travis
Harry.
Kelce. I can't. My Roman Empire is this bit of vision that I saw of him at one of the Eras tours in the VIP box, and someone was filming, and Julia Roberts came up to him. I don't know if you've seen it. She was also in the VIP box, right?
And she was,
And she was talking to him, and she had her hands on his chest, one hand on each side of his chest, and she was sort of touching him on his chest while she was talking, and she was being very effusive about something.
Taylor, probably.
I'm sure. And what he did was such an interesting thing. He put his hands on her hands to try and take them off him, and I could see the mental struggle of, I don't really want her touching me, but I don't want to be rude, and I don't, like, I'm a much bigger guy, but I also really struck me as just the most upstanding. It told me a lot about who he is, and that's why I think he's not a man who's threatened by women. The media would have found something in his past if he'd been a dickhead. Nothing. I think he really likes women.
I think he likes Taylor Swift.
Didn't he once go on a reality show to
Yes.
find a girlfriend?
Yes.
And was he really nice through all that too?
I think he was.
Okay, we'll give him the benefit
I
of
think
the doubt.
Jason Kelce likes women.
Yes.
His brother.
I think that they've been brought up by a really strong mother who's taught them that women are great.
And they're the best kind of guys. I'm so happy that Glen Powell's a good guy.
You're proud?
I'll be really upset if something comes, because we always talk about how, I guess all movie stars are good dudes until it's proved that they're not, right? Until something slips out and you're like, oh, okay.
Timothée Chalamet.
Oh, well, I was thinking about Chalamet. What do we
I don't
think?
think.
I don't think he likes women.
I don't think.
That's a real shame.
And to be clear, we're not talking about misogyny or anything,
No,
are we?
no.
We're just talking about, like, kind of doesn't want to hang out. It just doesn't like their company, really.
Yeah.
Outlouders, we want to hear from you about which men you think do or don't like women. You might have disagree. We're not the arbiters of this. It's just really a vibe,
a vibe,
check.
yeah.
It's a vibe check.
It's a vibe check. He's also very good at leaning into holding his puppy. Like, he knows how to play the game. He's got a puppy and he's always
You
like,
know a lot about him.
oh, mate, and I don't even fancy him. I'm just obsessed with like the birth of a movie star. He's very ambitious. You can tell. He's like, I am going to ride this train, and he's doing it very well.
Hi, Jessie, Holly and Mia. Long-time listener of Out Loud, back from Melbourne. I just wanted to say, firstly, you guys are amazing, and I could send you a voice message, and you've received several of mine all the time, but I don't want to bother you too much because my brain pops every time I listen to Out Loud. But I revisited one of your subscriber sessions, subscriber sort of episodes today back, I think it was a couple of years ago, around phases and seasons of life and when your seasons are different to your friends, which I've always kind of found that my seasons are a bit off kilter because I don't have kids. I'm very much mid now. And I've got friends who are in the same boat, but I'm now also not working, looking for work, but enjoying not working. And again, different season. And your episode I re-listened to it because I remembered it from before, and it's so important that we are kind to ourselves and we remember that it's only a season and things can wax and wane, and sometimes you're always out of sync with your mates and sometimes you're not. And whatever it is, it's okay. But to enjoy life and just keep listening to Mamamia out loud and other Mamamia podcasts, because that just enriches life. But very thoughtful, thought-provoking, and life-affirming, really. And I just always feel seen by you guys. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Massive thank you, Out Louders, for listening to today's show. And, of course, to all our fabulous team for putting this show together. Hey, listen, if you liked that little show I made recently called Mid with the talented people here at Mamamia, back in your ears tomorrow.
So good.
Season 2.
Who's on the first episode?
First episode is about sex, my friend.
About your sex life?
Not about my sex life. It's about a woman called Leslie Morgan, who's an American writer, and she, when she was 49, her marriage fell apart. Her husband did not like women. Let's just put that out there. And she had been in a sexless, disappointing marriage for a long time, and she was about to turn 50, and so she decided to really rev up her sexual identity and find at least 5 lovers in the first year. And she did. And her stories are fantastic, and it's really great. And also big thank you to all the Out Louders and Midders who sent me their little sex tidbits for my intro. Anyway, back in your ears tomorrow, friends, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, Mamamia Out Loud is also back in your ears tomorrow for all subscribers. Bye.
See you then. Bye.